entire kidney. So we had a picture similar to this in the lecture notes. The second part of the model would be taking a wedge, like the section between the pencil and the pointer there, and magnifying it, turning it a little bit to the side, but that's what the second part of the model shows. And the third part of the model takes this small area here, inside of the kidney, and magnifies it to what you see on this part of the model. This is the model, all three parts, that is in the ST Mesa Anatomy website. I have not checked it for sort of accuracy, but the things that I briefly clicked on, it looked okay. They do have some vessels that you don't have to know labeled, but in general, first recommendation is take your own pictures, label it with exactly what you need to know for this class, and use that. But if you need an extra resource to expedite it, it's probably one of the better resources. All right, so the first part of this model is a full kidney cut in a coronal section. This area is called the hilus or the hilum. You can see the red renal artery bringing blood into the kidney to be filtered. This is the blue renal vein taking blood away from the kidney that has already been filtered. This tube connected to the kidney at the hilus is called the ureter. This is just the beginning of it here. The rest would continue down towards the pelvis. The brown outer covering of the kidney is called the renal capsule. It goes all the way around it, but you can see it best here. Inside the kidney, you can see two main colors. You can see this lighter tissue around the edge. That is called the renal cortex. And then the darker tissue that's deeper is called the renal medulla. I never tag the renal medulla because it's hard to get students to figure out what I'm looking for. However, I do sometimes tag a renal pyramid, which is one section of the renal medulla. There are multiple examples here, but this would be one example of a renal pyramid. Here's another one here. If I'm looking for the answer renal pyramid, I will tag it in the darker area, something like here, or here, or here. That's because I may tag this part of a renal pyramid, this lighter tip, is called a renal papilla. So each renal pyramid has a lighter tip. The lighter tip is called a renal papilla. Tag in the darker area for renal pyramid. Tag in the lighter area, it'll say be specific. This is a renal papilla. In between each pair of renal pyramids, like these two here, there's part of the renal cortex that separates two renal pyramids. That lighter tissue is called a renal column. So there's multiple examples here. This would be a renal column that I'm pointing to. This is a renal column. You can see a little bit one here. This would be a renal column. So any of the light tissue that separates two adjacent renal pyramids, that lighter tissue is called a renal column. I won't tag them here, but you can see those white circles are supposed to be renal corpuscles from a bunch of nephrons. And they took two of them and showed you the renal tubule portion of those nephrons. In real life, they aren't this big. In one section of the kidney, you would have thousands, probably tens of thousands of these nephrons. This detail we'll talk about on the next part of the model, but again, nephrons in this section of the kidney are producing urine, right? They're taking blood plasma, turning it into filtrate, and then turning it into urine. The urine produced in the nephrons in this section of the kidney is going to enter this funnel-shaped tube. This is a minor calyx. So underneath or next to each renal papilla, there is a minor calyx, minor calyx, minor calyx. All of these that I'm touching are minor calyces. These two minor calyces have been cut open. I usually don't tag them, but each one is a minor calyx. Where two or more minor calyces merge together, you form a tube called a major calyx. So this would be an example of a major calyx. This minor calyx, this one, and probably even this one, all put their urine into this bigger tube. This is a major calyx. usually don't tag this one, but just to show you, each of these is a minor calyx. They've been cut open, but where they merge together, this that's been cut open, that is a major calyx as well. So that major calyx and this major calyx would come together to form this area where the number 4 is. That is called a renal pelvis. If I tag a major calyx on the model, it will be this one. If I tag the renal pelvis, it will be right next to the number 4. The renal pelvis connects to the ureter. This tube taking urine down to the bladder is a ureter. The second part of the model would be taking a wedge out of the kidney, approximately that size, turning it a little bit and